Hey, they made another Saw movie. This one's got Chris Rock and Sam Jackson in it, and promises to take the series in a new direction while honoring what has come before. Let's find out if it does just that as I review Spiral from the Book of Saw right after this. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights, a part of the Kings of Horror Network. I'm ML Miller. While you might be watching this video on the Kings of Horror Network, I urge you to click over to my ML Miller Frights YouTube page and give it a like. Please share with all of your buddies. Click subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to ring that bell for notifications. Spiral from the Book of Saw is new in theaters and IMAX this week. It's directed by Darren Lynn Bousman and written by Josh Stolberg and Pete Goldfinger. Chris Rock plays Zeke Banks, one of the few honest cops left on the force. Living in the shadow of his retired police chief father, Marcus, played by Samuel L. Jackson, Zeke struggles every day because he turned in a bad cop to the authorities, and the rest of the crooked cops around him don't really appreciate that. After bungling an undercover job at the beginning of the film, Zeke is paired with a rookie partner, William Schenk, played by Max Minghella, and is assigned to a new case involving a dead man found in the subway. Turns out this corpse is a crooked cop himself, and he's the victim of someone using John Kramer, aka Jigsaw's old MO, which was depicted in great detail in the previous 8 Saw films and involves a trail of clues, intricate traps, multiple twists and turns, and a massive pile of body parts. I'm not the biggest fan of the Saw series, but I believe I've seen them all. There are those who love this series, and I totally understand that. It was quite the phenomenon for a while, as a new Saw film was released in theaters almost every year, and people were there in theaters to watch it every time. I totally understand why there are uber fans of this series, because that's how Friday the 13th nabbed me as a fan for life in the 80s. So while I may not be as into the story as some fans, I understand why people are. Yes, these films are gory. Yes, they seem to take much pleasure in torturing the victims and showing it in gruesome detail. Yes, they got overly complicated the longer the series ran, but still, one can't deny the power this series has had on horror for almost 20 years. While the film has its issues, Spiral does a wonderful job of paring away a lot of the soap operatic baggage that weighed down the latter films of the Saw series. In those films, when John Kramer actually died, it either forced the filmmakers to write in a loop, circling back to tell stories set in the past, or write in new characters with vague ties to Kramer to keep his mythos going. The further away from Kramer the stories got, the less effective they were. People liked Tobin Bell, so the film series went out of its way to bring him back in one way or another, even after he died. Spiral pares away all of that by basically setting the film in an indeterminate amount of time after the Saw killings ended. Yes, in Spiral, someone is using Jigsaw's old MO, but the mystery is who and why, not how is John Kramer alive and killing again. Subtitling this one from the Book of Saw suggests that there are acolytes out there inspired by Jigsaw's work and applying their own reasons for implementing his complex acts of retribution. This means that we get a straight-up mystery with Spiral, asking the basic questions, who, what, where, when, and most importantly, why. In a whole lot of ways, the entire Saw series takes a huge page from David Fincher's Seven, and that's extremely evident in Spiral. Everything from the dank and dismal color schemes of piss yellow, gaudy red, nauseating green filters, to the pairing of a newbie with a wizened cop, to the singular focus on the investigation of this case will remind you of Fincher's detective classic. Even the story structure is wrapped around some extravagant set pieces discovered after the fact, packages and clues delivered to the cops and challenging them, and an explosive confrontation at the end where no one leaves unscathed. Still, as far as Seven riffs go, Spiral does it decently. And a lot of this rests on the slender shoulders of Chris Rock. While we don't have Tobin Bell to follow in this film, Rock is a great replacement so that people can actually invest in them and sort of forget about the old guy. Yes, it's been widely publicized that Rock has been a Saw fan and was an integral part in producing the reboot of this series. But I was hesitant to believe Rock could carry an entire film dramatically. And while there might have been a few dramatic stumbles here and there where Rock may have overstretched, he does a decent job here. A lot of this has to do with the fact that it's apparent Rock injects some of his stand-up into the script. The monologue about Forrest Gump at the beginning and the bits in the car where Rock and his partner talk about wives is all Rock's stand-up, and it's quite funny. Even when he's angry and screaming at the crooked cops around him, Rock has an attitude, and it fits this character who is sarcastic, jaded, and burned out. But he does a decent job making the viewer care about the dire situation he's in, and the story puts him in some deep shit. Even though there are a few stumbles along the way, Rock makes for a compelling, if not unconventional, detective action star, and I hope he continues to develop this in the future. Samuel L. Jackson is fun. He's basically Samuel L. Jackson here. He gets to drop a few F-bombs, and really, he's so charismatic that you really just enjoy the little time he does have on screen. His role is crucial to Rock's character, but he has very little to do other than represent everything cool, capable, and calm, qualities Rock's Zeke doesn't really have. There is a substantial amount of gore, a lot of which I'm surprised how gory it actually gets. There's all kinds of torture and dismemberment going on, and it gets quite a bit of screen time. Still, none of them are as elaborate as previous Saw films. They're just new variations of way to destroy the human body. Still, gorehounds have something to look forward to. Director Darren Bousman helmed Saw 2, 3, and 4, so he understands what needs to be in a Saw movie and does a decent job of maintaining the look and feel as if Spiral fits right in with those previous entries, right up to the fast-speed renditions of the way the traps work and the multiple use of flashbacks. Writers Josh Stolberg and Pete Goldfinger wrote the previous attempts to reboot the Saw series with Jigsaw, so again, this film is made by folks who know how to make a Saw film. There is an over-reliance on flashbacks here, but that seems to be the case in all of the Saw films, so I can't really hold it against this one. The problem with Spiral is that while I feel it will be a hit mainly due to its star power with Rock and Jackson, it still just kind of feels like a regular old Saw film. That'll definitely please those who are fans of the Saw series, but the film really does little to be anything other than that. The film does shift its focus to crooked cops, which in this day and age of everything political might ruffle a few feathers, but at least it's focused on the bad cops and not all cops. This being a detective film, there are good cops in this one too, so that's kind of refreshing. There is an overuse of the pig mask from the previous Saw films, which I guess could be seen as a derogatory remark against cops though. Unfortunately, the big reveal isn't as clever as it thinks it is, though the film does end in a rather poetic note, as dire as it is. And yes, it does leave things open for a sequel, but the killer definitely lacks the charm of Bell's Jigsaw. Still, even if there isn't a direct sequel, Spiral opens up the series for any twisted soul looking for a taste of complex retribution to take up Jigsaw's reins. Fans of the Saw series might come to expect elaborate death traps, bodily dismemberment, a misleading plot, and some high dramatics by the end. And Spiral's got all of that. It's a typical Saw film, and I guess that's okay. It's not as good as the first one, but it's comparable to pretty much all of the ones that followed. A lot more money was plopped onto this production, and it shows. Bousman has made a good-looking film with the cash, and it afforded some big names to star in it. If Rock is in love with this series as much as he says he is, maybe he'll be back for a sequel. If not, I'm sure there will be another Saw or Spiral film coming soon anyway. That'll be it for today. Please chime in down below in the comments and let me know how on the nose or mind-numbingly wrong I am, or you can counter with your own review. So guys, you know how YouTube works. I'd love to be able to dedicate more time to this channel. I'm not monetized yet, so if you want to help me out, remember to hit all the pertinent bells and whistles down below. Want some spooky comics to read? I have 2 new horror comic book trade paperbacks you should look out for. Both Gravetrancers and Pirouette, collecting never-before-published issues, can be found in only the finest of comic book shops. If you're looking for written reviews, you can find them on my website, mlmillerwrites.com. If you really want to show your support, I also have a Patreon page at mlmiller. Look for the link to my Patreon page down below. Thank you so much for your time, and take care.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed. Live the life that you are meant to be. Live inside